Pixel 9a is finally available, and we're able to pick it up right now as a brand new, more affordable version of the Pixel 9 and the 9 Pro. Powered by the same processor, giving us some of the main unique features that we get with the big guys, but at a more affordable price point. The A series is known for that. And I've used the Pixel devices since they were called Nexus devices, so I've actually been using Google devices for many, many years now, and I've come to appreciate what Google's been able to do with the hardware and the software, given sometimes a limitation of software or hardware capabilities, but also what they can do in the future with software updates. Well, why am I changing from the Pixel 8a to the Pixel 9a? Seemingly a generational upgrade shouldn't be that big of a difference, right? Well, this video is focusing primarily on that. It's not a review of the Pixel 9a, but it's going to showcase the features in the Pixel 9a that made me decide to leave the Pixel 8a and start using the Pixel 9a as a device. This is TK, and this is the Google Pixel 9a. Did I make a mistake, or am I making the right move? Let's check it out. Like and subscribe, make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos for you on the channel. This is the Pixel 9a. There is a few colors available, 4 colors actually specifically for this, and 2 configurations, a 128 and 256. The one I go in with here is the iris color, is more of the purple color. There's more of a pink color, of course, slightly greenish, and a more of obviously the traditional obsidian or darker or black color that we have from them. The device itself is pretty straightforward. You pretty much get the phone in the box. You also get a wire to be able to charge the device, as well as a SIM removal tool. We have gone away from the years of having cases or chargers or anything like that. And as you can see, pretty much a straightforward experience, and SIM removal tool is included here in the back. And that's pretty much it. Charging the device uses basically your own charger, and you're able to use previous generations. And one of the first things we're going to start off by saying is, reason why I switched over here, it actually does also charge a little bit faster than previous A series from Google. So as we're noticing, first and foremost, both devices are the Pixel. This is the 8a on the left side. This is the black, I want to say the obsidian color, but essentially this is a generational upgrade. We have the 8a on the left, the 9a on the right. First that'll jump at you is there's a massive change in, I guess, aesthetics, or maybe even design language, that we've gone through from last generation to this one. We've gone away from the rounded edges all around. This is pretty much more of a rounded edge. We've gone away from the visor configuration that we had in the back. We still have the dual cameras in the back, and we still have the LED flash, but you can notice here that the LED flash is now closer to the camera stack, and of course that is actually a little bit more flatter of an experience. It is not perfectly flat. There is this minor little bump, but for the most part, when you put it on a table, there is no wobble, there is no issue. Where here, we also had no problem here because the visor kept it stabilized. So I don't think there was ever an issue with the design, but this is something that Google's moving. Will we see this on the 10 and the 10 Pro? It looks like Google is moving slightly away from that. We're going with flatter sides as opposed to rounded sides. So one of the things that we'll notice right away in the beginning is the fact that the display and the actual device are actually bigger. We've been using the 6-inch display here, a 6.1-inch display, for quite some time. And with the Pixel 9a, we finally went up to 6.3 inches. That 0.2 that we're looking at, although may not seem too much on paper, you could definitely see that when you put them side by side, it is a much bigger device. And it also seems a little bit thinner because of the bezels, or at least the size of the actual unit. We went away from the rounded edges that we've had on both of the 7a and the 8a, and now it's more of a flatter experience. So when you put them next to each other, they seem a little bit different. Also the bezels, although arguably bigger than what you get on the 9 and the 9 Pro, are still a little bit more uniform when you compare them to the 8a. So from an aesthetical point of view, it actually looks better, it feels better in the hand. It is a flatter side, makes it easier to hold, and no basically sharp edges on the side here, so you're not getting that digging feeling in your hand. The camera stack on the back also did get an upgrade in here, or a slightly different change. But one thing I'll probably say overall, as far as the peak brightness on the display, we're actually now able to go up to 2700 nits here on the Pixel 9a, as opposed to what we get here with the 2000 nits. So brightness outside visibility is also improved with the new display. We still have an in-display fingerprint sensor. Let's go ahead and unlock the device. So the experience didn't really change much. We don't have a fingerprint sensor in the back. That went away quite a while ago. We have wireless charging on both of these, and we also have slightly faster charging on the Pixel 9a over the Pixel 8a. So overall, bigger battery, bigger display, and of course, we'll talk about the cameras in a second, but overall, a better experience overall. A brighter display, bigger display. It actually looks thinner because of the way they decided to change the materials on the side of the device. Now, the battery capacity did change. We went from a 4,492 milliampere, which was technically a slight upgrade from the 4,300-ish, almost 4,400 that we got the year before that on the Pixel 7a. But here we're jumping over to 5,000 milliampere, a little bit more in line with what we usually get with the Pixel 9 series. So the 9 and the 9 Pro typically get the 5000 milliampere and slightly higher there. This is something that we've appreciated. And the A series for some time has been carried over with slightly smaller batteries. By the battery capacity from this 8A to the 9A went up by almost 500 milliampere, which is actually substantial if you consider the fact that you want to be able to last using this device even longer and charge it back. The last thing we're going to talk about also is that we finally moved over to IP68 water and dust resistance as opposed to what we've had in the past with IP67. The protection that we have in here is still Gorilla Glass 3. This is something that hasn't changed. The displays look beautiful. Again, a little bit brighter, 2700 nits here as opposed to the 2000. The RAM and storage configuration, pretty straightforward. 8 gigs of RAM, 8 gigs of RAM, 128, 256, 128, 256. Now, although on paper, the camera sensor on the Pixel 9a technically is a lower megapixel camera, it is actually a better performing camera. It also has an f-stop of f1.7 as opposed to the f1.89 that we had on the Pixel 8a, which means it actually is able to capture light a little bit better as it's able to open up more. Also, the field of view that we have in here is about 82 degrees as opposed to 80, which is not a big difference. But for a wide camera in the back as a main sensor, this is definitely going to be a better performer overall going forward, especially with Google's optimizations. The ultra-wide is pretty much the same. It's a 13 megapixel at f2.2. They didn't really change much in here, as well as the front-facing camera that we have in here. It's pretty much the exact same camera from what we had before, and that's going to be the 13 megapixel camera at f2.2 as well. 4K 30, 4K 60 frames per second is going to be capable on all of the lenses that we have in here, and that's going to be one of the main optimizations that we have from Google. Again, one of the biggest things that we need to appreciate is that Google does a lot more with whatever hardware it's put on, which means even though back in the days the Pixel devices used to have 12 megapixel cameras, they still provided us stunning imagery. Now we're running with the big boys. We're definitely learning with OIS, better camera sensors, wider camera sensors, and of course better capabilities with updates. As we know with pixel drops and all of the things that Google does, typically we always get more features as time goes on. These devices age very, very well. Google decided, at least in this current stage, to give a few features from the Pixel 9 and 9 Pro series to the 9a that we don't get on the Pixel 8a as of yet. No word if it's going to be transferring in or not. Specifically, first and foremost, is Add Me. And the feature that we're talking about here is basically the ability of adding yourself into an image whenever there's a group of people taking an image. Typically, we always try to take a selfie. We have the arm, the extended arm view that we always have. This one allows us to actually take a picture, and then switch places with one of the people in that image, and then, of course, insert yourself into that image, giving you that capability. Now, currently, again, available on the 9 and the 9 Pro, and now it's coming into the 9a that we didn't have before. The other option we also have in here, because of the camera system that we have, is we also have the ability of doing a macro focus, which means we're actually our focusing distance that we get in here is a lot closer than what we've seen in the past. So let's go ahead and see this way. Scan. We're not going to try to scan document. Let's go ahead and take that picture, and we can see here where we take the picture, it actually does say macro focus as one of the options that we have in here, giving us the ability of taking clearer pictures and of course closer images. And as you can see here, it's extremely very, very clean. It seems like I have a little bit of dust right here next to that 9 that I didn't see in with my naked eye there. So it's absolutely nice features to see in here. And a few more options that are available on the 9a and not available on the 8a is the auto frame and the reimagine. Those are specifically within the AI functionality within the edit within the Google's photo application. You'll notice here auto frame, reimagine background. Portrait has already been there, style has been there, but we can actually use these experiences where it isolates the subject and we can actually give it a different background. I'm going to say mountains with clouds. And we're going to give it a second to reimagine a different background where that picture or those flowers were taken in. We'll give it a second there to finish. So I'm going to actually have to say that this is crazy. This is really... Yeah, exactly, because these are exactly where those flowers would grow. They would grow on mountains and in the clouds. But you could definitely see what it did. It isolated the subject in the foreground, which image was taken with this device. And then, of course, replaced the entire background at a very good specific details. I mean, I can barely tell that this picture was taken in a flower pot. It looks like I actually just took it on top of that mountain right next to those clouds. Again, capabilities that we have right now available on the Pixel 9a. There is a chance that these could come to the Pixel 8a series or the other Pixel series, or the A series at least, but overall performance-wise. So when we look at a device like this, it really kind of puts it down to a specific set of features that will make me jump from a 7a or an 8a to a 9a. First and foremost, as we talked about at the beginning, the 9a has for the lack of a better term, a better feel in the hand. It's a flatter surface on the side, easier to grip. Also, because it's thinner, as we showed before, the thinness of the actual unit itself makes it look like the bezels are actually smaller. Although we still have larger bezels than most devices on the market, this is something that the A series has always had. They seem a little bit smaller when we're looking at it. And again, when you look at them side by side. Overall, a bigger display, 6.3-inch display is noticeably bigger, especially if you're coming from a 7A to or either an 8A to a 9A. The front-facing camera didn't change. The main sensor on the back seems to perform quite well. The visor is gone, but I'm not necessarily missing it too much. I'll say this. From a marketing standpoint, now we're pretty much losing the iconic Pixel look. That visor on the back, that again, the Star Trek Geordi LaForge there, for the most part has been iconic for a few generations now, and it kind of seems like Google's moving away from it. The flat surface, again, gives me a much better experience here. It's sitting on the table, looks really good. Although we're going to check out some cases right now real quick just to see how does it actually translate when you put it in a case, because typically when we had a case on the Pixel 9a, that wasn't an issue anymore as it encased the entire visor on the back. Now, I didn't end up picking up a case that's in the same iris color. I did end up going with a black case, primarily because I wanted to have the iris color shine through in the back as more of a, basically an accent color. This is the Google case, pretty straightforward. Hard plastic, pretty much hard plastic on the inside. It says Pixel on the inside. Has, of course, all the cutouts, openings. It does have a softer feel on the hand, but it is not slippery. So where the device actually has a very nice, good grip on it, not slippery at all, this actually extenuates that experience and continues that feeling across the entire device. You can kind of see the color of the device on the side here, and of course on the back it becomes a little bit more of an accent color right next to the visor. It's a bigger opening than what the cameras need. That's primarily because of the dual tone LED flash. They decided not to do a cutout for it, just keep it as an opening so that when you're holding it in the back, we kind of get the visor back. I'll say, like, you know, they kind of, in a weird way, they went halfway between removing it entirely and accenting it or highlighting it with a case, at least from the ones that they make. G-Series is present here, of course. Wireless charging is not going to be an issue. Very thin, very minimalistic case, and should not give you any problem using it. Of course, all the access, even with Circle to Search, all the functionalities will work very nicely. Now, I did do my data transfer from my old device to the new one. It copied everything. Some, actually, even like my LA Fitness app, did transfer my account, which was nice. My United app did not do that. So again, keep in mind what you're using. And of course, you can download and update your information, transfer your content from your old to the new. Poetic Cases was nice enough to send me a few cases as well, made specifically for the Pixel 9a. First and foremost, we'll see here, this one is more of a rugged case with a full cover for the entire camera stack on the back. So both cameras will definitely get protected. We also have a kickstand positioned here. We can use it if you just open it up. It becomes a nice little holder. Also gives us the ability of putting our device straight forward. No MagSafe on this one. As you'll notice, the second case does have that. And for the most part, when your phone is inside, you won't be able to see the color on the actual device because it's actually well protected all throughout. They also do include, and this is something that's very nice, a somewhat of a screen protector that's built in here with an adhesive piece for where the fingerprint sensor needs to be. You'll see it says right there, peel off. This will adhere right over where the fingerprint sensor is, and it provides that nice direct contact onto the actual display so the fingerprint sensor runs very nicely. You don't have to necessarily use this. I'm personally going to be picking up some glass protectors, but I do appreciate the fact that Poetic Cases includes it for us in case we want to be able to protect our entire device through and through. Again, when you open it, you'll see here the camera stack looks there very, very faintly. You can kind of see the iris color, the purple color, but when you put it up there, it protects the entire camera stack in the back. The kickstand is pretty straightforward. And of course, this is entirely ruggedized, so you have some nice grips on the side. You can see here the power button works perfectly fine. Fingerprint sensor works perfectly because I'm not using the screen protector that they included, but it does actually protect or cover the USB-C port on the bottom, but it keeps the speaker open, which is another thing we're going to talk about in a second between the 8A and the 9A. An opening for the microphone at the top, and of course, coverage for everything else. From a ruggedized standpoint, this is going to be one of the better options. So this case is the Poetic Revolution case made specifically for the Pixel 9a in black. We're going to check out the two additional cases that we have in here. Pretty much same configuration. Now, I didn't show you guys on the first case, but there is a nice little lip here on the side. So when you actually bend a little bit more here, you're able to remove the frame, which essentially makes it easy for us to insert the device. Matches the configuration on our phone. Just put it through here. Of course, you can see here the buttons, everything kind of aligns perfectly. Make sure that all of the connectors on the side here are basically flush with the device as well as on the top. And then at this point, you get the protection, of course, raised display off the table. This one, of course, supports MagSafe, and you also get a chance to, well, you're actually able to enjoy the color of your device. The plastic that we have in here, sorry about that part, is obviously, there's also a plastic on the inside. That's why you kind of see those bubbles. That not only allows me to actually use accessories like these, where I'm able to actually use like a kickstand, position in there. You can also use something like a pop socket. Very nice, very simple, and of course wirelessly use this to charge our device because that's the main purpose of MagSafe. compatibility with multiple accessories that we typically don't get natively from Google. This one's called the Poetic Guardian with MagSafe support. It's clear, it provides us the ability to see in our device, also provides us the MagSafe compatibility to all accessories, charging, and of course, as I showed you guys, kickstand, cases, or anything that uses MagSafe. And the last one, of course, is this exact same case. This is called the Poetic Guardian without the MagSafe. And the intention here between these two is that you're able to use it without necessarily having to worry about the MagSafe, or if you don't care for MagSafe, this is not going to disappoint. And make sure you close the USB-C port that's on the bottom here. Again, we do have IP68. It's not necessary, but it's nice to see that they include coverage in here in case there's any dirt or kind of things that could go in there. Bottom fire speaker is open. Of course, nothing on the left side. On the right side, we have the buttons. Again, the opening for the microphone on the top, and we get to enjoy the entire colors, basically the entire colorway of our device. One of the better options that we have in here, again, with MagSafe, without MagSafe, fully ruggedized, or Google also has a line of cases that match the colors, so they have an actual specific one that matches the color of this Pixel 9a. After looking at all of the things that I shared with you guys today, the biggest thing I'll probably say is this. For me, the 8A and the 7A were very close to each other. We had a few changes between those two devices, a slightly bigger battery, change in sensor, but at the end of the day, they felt pretty much the same. Although this is a very shocking change from the 8A as far as the aesthetics, you no longer have the visor on the back. When you put it in a case, most of us don't even see the visor, so I don't feel like that's a big change. Unless you carry your device without a case, which again, kudos for you, I can't do that, there's not going to be a big difference. Cases eliminated the visor function anyways because you couldn't see it for the most part. So here, what we're getting essentially is a very similar experience when it comes to the back of the device. Having it as a flat experience, almost flat, very minor bump on the camera stack in the back, makes it so that you don't have any wobble if you use it without a case. In a case, it's going to look great. The colorways look really good. We still have a 128 to 256 option. So we're going to start off with the front-facing camera on the brand new Pixel 9a. 4K 30 frames per second is the maximum resolution, which is again typical to what we've seen in the past. There's a little bit of noise going on not too far from here. But a really nice thing about this is the fact that we can use noise remover. That's one of those functions that we got that allow us to actually take out any kind of background noises. But this should be a pretty good example of what the video and audio sounds like. Now let's switch over to the main sensor on the back where we can shoot all the way up to 4K 60 frames per second. Now we're using the primary 48 megapixel camera sensor here on the 9A, and we're shooting at 4K 60 frames per second. Now when we go to 60 frames per second, we lose the ultra wide. The ultra wide does allow us to shoot 4K, but that's going to be at 4K 30, similar to the one on the front-facing camera. Now, when we switch to 4K 60, the best performer, we have the 1x and the 2x, which essentially is a 2x crop on the main sensor, since we don't technically have a telephoto lens. But this should be a pretty good example, again, of the capabilities of the Pixel 9a. Great cameras on the back. I feel like that 48 is going to be pretty much the best experience. But basically, both the 13 on the front and on the back, the ultra-wide and the front-facing camera, are not going to disappoint because they're still backed up with Google's algorithm that gives us the ability of getting some of those great HDR images and ready to share, basically. Just to pick up the phone, take a picture, and not have to second guess that it's going to be a great one. The brighter display at 2700 nits as opposed to 2000. The fact that we have a 5000 milliampere battery is also very nice. It means the battery and the device will last even longer. As we're seeing here, there's a quick picture here from one of my buddies, Christian. He did a performance test, and you were, again, physically able to prove that the device having a larger battery means will last you longer. It is a newer generation processor, the G4 as opposed to the G3, but again, arguably a minor's upgrade from last year to this year when it comes to performance. I think at the end of the day, the 8 gigs of RAM is primarily going to be where we start noticing the big differences in what the 9 and the 9 Pro can do, because they run at 12 gigs, whereas opposed to we have 8 in here. But when we're looking at the faster charging, bigger battery, bigger display, brighter display, somewhat better camera, 48 megapixel camera here with OIS, a slightly wider field of view, similar capabilities when it comes to video, but also some of those new unique features that we got with the 9A and the 9 and the 9 Pro, like AdMe, and also the ability of using that closer macro shots. If you like to take close-up shots, this is definitely going to be a better camera for you. Although, again, some of the features that we're talking about, reimagine, and some of the options within the AI side could potentially come down to the 8 series and the 9 series as well, the A series, but again, or the 7 series. But at the end of the day, those are going to be minor changes. They're not necessarily a decision factor for me. It's the larger display, the better brightness on the display, and of course, better camera and larger battery that kind of kicked me into it. And The change in aesthetics on the side makes the bezel look actually smaller than they are, even though they're technically bigger than what we get on the 9 series. So my hope at the end of the day that I'm able to answer that question for you guys of why I upgraded from the Pixel 8a to the 9a. Those specific features that we talked about are primarily the driving force behind it. It may not be something that you want to do, but I think that both the 8A and the 9A are great devices from what Google's able to give us. They had some substantial changes from previous generations, the 9A obviously ultimately more, but at the end of the day, they're both going to give you a great experience that gets better with time, because this is again what Google does. Every single time Google puts out a feature drop, our devices get more features, they get better with time, and I appreciate the fact that Google does that to their devices. We didn't get that back in the days of early Pixels or even Nexus. The Pixels line that we get now with just not only the fact that we get software updates and so on, we get feature updates. And the ones that we have on the 9A mirror pretty much what the 9 and the 9 Pro have. My hope is that this video helped you make a decision if you want to be able to get either Pixel 8a or Pixel 9a. For me, both of these devices are going to be great. Like and subscribe as usual. Thank you very much for the support. I will see you in the next video.